What's going on, guys and gals? It is Darth. We're back in Queensblade Limit Break, and in this one, I'm going to have to apologize for the delay in this one, but we're going to be taking a new look at the brand new SP Mind Attribute Warrior. She is a tank, and she's actually a really good one. Had a lot of people asking me questions about this one. She's actually been out for, I don't know, like 3 days or something like that. I've just been very busy getting up at 4 a.m. to go to work, and man, my face is sunburnt. I live in the desert. Things are getting crackly dry around here. Living in Arizona in the US of A. Anyways, without further ado, let's take a look at this one. We'll look at her skills. Again, a lot of people have actually had questions regarding this warrior. I'm going to give you my thoughts, and then I'm going to wrap up by whether or not you should go hard on this one and her usefulness in terms of what she is and what she does. I actually like where G123 is going in terms of tanks. I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go on as well. Let's go in and take a look at her, and she, again, artwork, amazing. I usually like one specific, in particular, piece of armor or weapon when it comes to these warriors. And I gotta say, it's a toss-up between the weapon and this little crown thingy. But there is something to be said about this part of the dress that's missing, and it's just a cage. Has a, I guess, big poofy dress. Looks amazing. Artwork continues to, impress. However, it's the spicy pose that usually gets me too. This is very sexy. She's not, I don't know. She's just in after a hard day in battle. She's got a little, I was gonna say that's a scar, but no, it's a frayed. Looks like somebody tried to tie her up. She lost the battle, tried to rip her clothes off or something, or maybe she did it on her own and just decided to do a little kick up in the air just to show everybody that she's the man, or she's the woman. She's missing the little cage part of her outfit. That got lost in battle too. These spicy poses, man, they seem to be battle trodden and downtrodden. Anyways, really good. Let's go take a look at her abilities. Some interesting abilities here, and I've noticed that about a lot of warriors, that they're starting to come up with very interesting abilities, regardless of how people think about it. So let's take a look at her passes first here. HP plus 45%. Defense plus 25%. And it just basically means that anytime you increase HP and defense, her HP gets a bonus of 45% and 25% respectively. Now, damage resistance plus 10%. Again, this is at 12 star. Keep in mind, things are a little different depending upon what star you are. Max level here is 11 star, but she should have the full potency of all her abilities. So, let's just go continue here. When an ally has freeze or deep freeze, damage resistance plus 20%. When an enemy has freeze or deep freeze, damage resist negative 20%. Deep freeze cannot act in this state and is not removed when attacked. We're going to talk about the difference between freeze and deep freeze just for a moment, because there is some confusion here. Freezing generally is an effect applied by a warrior directly as a result of a skill, passive, or ability that is triggered. Deep freeze, there's no warrior that I can currently think of that applies a deep freeze effect. Now, if you don't know, the mind attribute technically is supposed to specialize in freezing the enemy team. Freeze doesn't work on bosses, so WTF to that. But anyways, so I think you lose a lot of damage when it comes to anything that increases damage or damage resistance when you can't freeze somebody. But I digress. We'll talk about a little bit more about that here in a second. Deep freeze is an effect that is generally applied by the frost core. Okay, the frost cores are a whole nother type of battle system going on when you fight. Yes, it happens within your 15 turns, but the frost cores actually inflict deep freeze. So the difference is freeze is an immobilizing effect. It prevents you from doing anything, causing you to even miss your turn, but it can be removed after X amount of attacks, but you take shaved ice damage if it is removed when attacking. Now, the issue here is that the shaved ice damage actually is an effect that they added later on in the game. a normal freeze attack, and you'll still run into warriors who freeze who don't do the shaved ice damage, unless they go back and finally fix that on any warrior who applies in a freeze effect. So deep freeze, cores, freeze, warrior, applied. Damage resistance. So if any of your allies, basically she's giving them all your allies a passive, basically that if you're frozen or if an enemy team's core goes off and freezes you, you actually get 20% damage reduction. In the same token, they're giving all allies the ability to do more damage by giving, if the enemy team is frozen or deep frozen by a core, they have their damage resistance by negative 20%. Basically, it's 20% damage reduction. We'll just say that. Anyways, so interesting abilities, but let's actually go look at, that's her passive. So she gets the standard, HP defense bonus, damage resist plus 10%, which is a 10% damage reduction, but she's applying additional effects to herself and allies, which is what a tank really should be doing. Tanks are technically supports. First ability, grants Blossom Shield to all allies and inflicts Immobilize plus 20% for 2 turns. The important part of this is grant a shield to all and 2-turn cooldown. The shield lasts for 2 turns, assuming it's not taken off by damage. This is a very, very potent, very, very powerful shield ability. Blossom Shield basically gives all allies a shield equal to 15% of your own max HP. Effectively, this is the shield rune. There's a rune skill that applies a 15% HP shield to all allies, but it only lasts for 2 turns and it cannot be reapplied. Some people like the shield. It's a good start to a battle, but this is really good because it applies a shield every 2 turns. I don't think people actually understand how powerful an ability this actually is and what it can do for other warriors. Let's say other warriors give them some time to heal up, gives them time to do a plethora of other things. I don't have time to go through them all, but let's say they are using a greed rune and starts to stack up their own damage resist. We don't know how shields stack and how they kind of take damage in succession completely. This is a very powerful ability, but a secondary effect, it increases the immobilization rate of all allies. Keep in mind, Mind generally is supposed to specialize in freeze effects. I don't think that it does it that well, otherwise the whole Mind team would be way overpowered and be one of the only teams used in PvP, so they have to temperament. I noticed they didn't temperament the fish in the skill team when they created her, but I digress on beating that dead horse. But increasing the immobilization, basically it's given all allies the ability to a 20% extra chance are added on to their already immobilization rate that they may have. So it increases the chance of allies to apply effects, such as freezing. So if your allies already have a 60% chance to freeze a target, that's going to be increased by 20% for 2 turns. And you guessed it, she's going to be able to maintain and upkeep that throughout the fight. Whoops, what did I do? Oh, there we go. Third ability, this is actually a damage ability. 200% physical damage, which is actually pretty good. To enemies in the middle row, that's weird. With a 70% chance to inflict freeze. This is a very high chance to freeze. I think it's actually a higher chance than most, if not all, Mind attribute warriors. Okay? Pairs very well with the Frost Core and the next set of abilities. At the end of the skill, for each freeze or deep freeze core that the enemy has, so if depending upon how many enemies are actually frozen, she'll get a max HP increase of 15% that lasts for 4 turns. That may not seem important, but keep in mind, this triggers on turn 2, lasts for 4 turns. Her first ability grants a shield based on 15% of her own max HP, meaning that she's increasing her own HP, assuming she can freeze somebody, mind you, and depending upon how many people she freezes, she increases her max HP by 15%, thus increasing the potency of her shield. So it kind of feeds into itself. Again, 70% chance is great when it comes to freezing. Keep in mind, freezing does not work on guild bosses, does not work on monster takedown, does not work on events bosses. Completely useless when it comes to single target event bosses. Keep that in mind. It explains how the max HP works. Basically, Max HP is based on whatever your max HP is as a warrior through increase effects. Do not believe, if you have another warrior that increases your HP, I do not believe that counts as max HP, so you just have to understand what your maximum HP is. Still very powerful. Her last ability, super awesome as well. Let's take a look. When battle starts, grants Ice Flower Mark to all allies. Can't be removed. What is Ice Flower Mark? Well, if you're hit by fatal damage, basically you're going to die, you actually survive with 20% of max HP. Basically you heal 20%. Removes all debuffs and inflicts chill on you for 2 turns. Normally when you see chill, it's on the enemy team. Well, the skill can only be activated once. Basically, chill applies an effect to all allies, the way I'm understanding this, that it removes all debuffs if you are immobilized. So if the fish goes in to try to CC you again, it'll remove it. All received damage becomes 0, guys. You heal at the end of every turn for 2 turns by 40 additional % max HP, meaning that you can fully heal right back up. This is an extremely powerful ability if you use it right, or if you just decide to use it at all. I have a feeling that given the current meta, the way it still stands, people are going to skip on this warrior. They're not going to realize her potential or use her. That's just my personal opinion. I'll elaborate on that in a future video. So she's very plug and play. Her ability, she applies a shield. Very powerful. She can increase her max HP. You can increase her max HP. And it applies every 2 turns. This is extremely good damage mitigation. Gives your team a chance to recover. She's applying a cheat death to all allies. She's applying immobilization resistance, 100%. Damage to 0 for 2 turns. I think she's going to be important on those more tough event bosses, like the one that does 70% max HP damage if it ever returns. Things like that. She's going to provide a shield, give you a chance to heal up. Yeah, once per battle, but there are other warriors you can pair with her to increase that potency. Now, is she the only one that does these things? No. Let's take a look at a few warriors, okay? Just to give some perspective here. Under the skill, this gal right here, Shamuel, actually has a revive all ability. Okay? Shield ally, a really solid warrior, also applies a shield effect to her allies. The problem is, it lasts for 2 turns, triggers every 4, it has a 4-turn cooldown, triggers on 2 turns, last 2 turns, provides a shield equal to 27% of the user's max HP. When the shield disappears, the target's HP will be recovered by the same amount. So, very good healing. Still, you're basically going to recover. When the shield disappears, the target HP will be covered by the same amount. Basically, 27%, if I remember how it's working. So, it's good healing. I don't think it's as powerful as the other one. The problem is that the healing is continuous. There's more healing here, in my particular opinion. The shield does not recuperate as fast. It's not on a 2-turn cooldown. But she also has extreme damage reduction and resistances as well, and she does really good damage. Under the duel, this nope, that's not her. I'm just mentioning this. This skill here, she actually applies an effect that cheats death as well. Now, there's some caveats to some of these revivals, like this one here, only triggers every 5 turns, or after 5 turns, and it can be reapplied. The problem is if she dies and there's a mark out, it doesn't actually trigger. So there's some caveats there that you have to keep in mind. My computer just kicked in. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but we'll take a look at it. But anyways, I think she's a solid warrior, guys. The problem is recommending how hard you should go. I'm going to pull for her at least to 9 to 10 stars. Okay, the fact that the time limit actually runs for 14 days now on some of these arrival summons when it comes to SP warriors gives me more time to use gems to summon more copies of her. Where does she fit in? Well, she can freeze. If freezing the enemy is a good thing, keep in mind, enemy can remove that freeze debuff. The only one that can't be removed completely is the deep freeze from core. There are other warriors who do all revive, who I think are actually, one of them is actually even better, and that's Shamuel. I think she's really good. I think you should pull for her if you like her abilities and you plan on using her as a tank. She's got great damage mitigation. I would not be doing a good job if I didn't tell you that, unfortunately, there are better warriors. One of them that is overlooked right now is a direct counter to the fish, and yes, she is. I've been testing it out, is the Amara physical. This ability right here. Go back and read it. Triggers at the start of the turn, granting you an 80% chance to remove all immobilization effects. Not just useful against the fish. She is now a really solid warrior when it comes to Spider Queen and preventing you from being locked down. That's what the Spider Queen excels at. The fish, still a really good warrior. Okay, Nanelle, great warrior. The hair was updated. She's capable of extremely good burst damage based on HP debuffs. Would I recommend her over these warriors? No. I think the physical Amara gal is going to be needed, even if you're not a PvP computer. If you want to compete with yourself for damage on Spider Boss, you need her. You need her to 10-star to prevent the immobilization. That's what kills your damage numbers there. I don't know. Also, I just want to point out, and not to make the video longer, I just want to point out that a proper defense team is forming of all defense. If you were to throw Shield Ally, Shamuel, the fish, the new warrior in there along with someone else like B. Sigwy, you would have an extremely all-defensive, just still capable of some fairly decent damage. I think that we got the makings for a really good all pure defense team that can outlast and eventually kill a DPS team. That remains to be tested. I'll be working on something like that. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section of this particular warrior, how her skills play out, the definition of freeze versus deep freeze, how it works. What you've noticed about her ability, how do you feel about her look? How far are you going to pull? I'm definitely taking this one to probably 10-star, guys, just so that I can play around with her full potential, and then we'll deal with it going to 11-star and whatever after that. Hit me down in the comment section, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought, and I'll see you in the next one.